Hi friends. So in the video that I posted last night but did not publicize on Facebook or anywhere else, I said that was my last video and I intended it to be, but I watched it and I'm gonna leave it up. Everything that I said was correct, but I feel I didn't communicate what I was trying to say in the most efficient way. So I'm gonna post this one first and then the other one for all of the emotion that it contained and being exactly what I wanted to say right then. This is roughly the same thing I was trying to say, so a lot of it will be repetitive, but I'm hopeful. I actually thought about what I wanted to say for more than 30 seconds this time, so I'm hopeful that this will communicate more of what's going on. We did better than expected with coronavirus in New York. Our curve has been flatter, even though I think that has become a meme without content, the flatten the curve thing. We really did reduce our peak case volume and thus avoid the worst of care rationing and unnecessary mortality that was seen in places like Italy, and while the numbers don't show it through the reporting, was seen in places like Wuhan. That's a very good thing. The social distancing definitely is the major contributor there. That I hate the term social distancing too. I guess I'm really just picky about marketing terms, but putting physical distance between ourselves helped. And while the 7 p.m. applause for essential workers, both healthcare and other essential workers who have stepped up during this time, largely without additional recompense, that 7 p.m. applause is great. It's gratifying to know that people appreciate us. But my point is that none of us should ever have been in this position. Healthcare workers, people who got COVID, people who are unemployed now and don't know how they're going to pay their rent or buy food, none of us had to be in this position. I'm not just talking about the obvious public health failures. Let's start with healthcare workers. No one wants to be a hero. Not even soldiers in wartime. No one wants to be a hero because a hero is someone who has to do something that is above and beyond the capacity of most people, which in itself is painful. And it's also someone who, if they die, they are immortalized but still dead. A hero's dying is something we all understand. America is very okay with its heroes dying. Our soldiers become heroes when they go to war, sort of regardless of their actions. Similarly, healthcare workers became heroes in this crisis. And based on how we treated our heroes who were first responders on 9/11, denying them healthcare and everything else, but calling them heroes so it's understandable when they die, I think being a hero is one of the worst things you can be in this or probably any other country. And I'm not a hero. I didn't sign up to go to war. I'm not a soldier. I didn't sign up to be doing my job in an unsafe manner. Now, doctors do understand that the job is what the job needs to be. We understand that our requirements can change at any time. But the idea of being at risk was one that was supposed to be harder to achieve. Instead of getting us PPE, they called us heroes. And again, I had PPE, to be clear, but a lot of people didn't, and some people died because of it. They're heroes. Instead of having meaningful ways to manage the volume and still treat physicians like humans in the midst of this, instead of using Comfort or the Javits Center to actually decompress the emergency rooms in some meaningful way, we just did what we always do, which is tell doctors they have to take ever more patients where they are. The suicide of Lorna Breen, an ER physician at the Allen, is tragic, heroic, and entirely preventable. That emergency room was hit incredibly hard, and she basically survived superhuman levels of stress for days or weeks. And then she didn't. We did not volunteer to be in this position. We should never have been put in this position. So As COVID goes away and we have done a good job, I want to focus on a couple of ways in which we can do better. Number one is the unifying theme is investment. America politically for the last, let's say, 20 years, and probably longer than that, has been very reticent to make large investments in our own country. President Trump ran on the promise of a large infrastructure bill, which has never materialized. And the reason that he needed to do that was because we have not in a meaningful way. We haven't built high-speed rail, there's any number of things that other countries do on a regular basis that we have not. Rather than large-scale public investment, the past 20 years have seen a trend towards public-private partnerships. In some cases, those can be very valuable. There is a purpose to capitalism, and there's a purpose to the profit motive. The pharmaceutical industry, for example, is extraordinarily successful at finding drugs because of the profit motive, and they churn through an enormous amount of cash in unproductive research. If we had only publicly funded drug investigations, we would not have the number of drugs that we have today. And people are alive because of those drugs. Capitalism has a purpose. But capitalism doesn't provide a very effective fire department, because necessarily that cannot be driven by profit motive, or the people without the ability to pay will not be served by that service. Public utilities, water is being outsourced to private companies. And I think we've forgotten what public goods are. And public health is certainly a public good, and we have to pay for it. Just like we have to pay for education. Education cannot be effectively provided to everyone via private industry, because private industry exists to make money, and some people can't pay for education. So if we agree that education is a public good that should be provided, it should be paid for publicly, and provisioned publicly and equitably. So yes, we need to pay for more public health, more epidemiology, a more functional, there will be many pieces written and probably a federal commission about the failure to have meaningful amounts of working coronavirus testing by the time the first COVID case popped up in Seattle. It is a tremendous failure. And the theme, as we look at Trump having dissolved the commission that was formed after swine flu, not commission, the group that was formed after swine flu to prepare for future epidemics. That's not an isolated incident, and it's not him being short-sighted. It's definitely him being short-sighted, but it's not uniquely him being short-sighted. It's part of the broad trend to believe that most government agencies need to be dismantled, when nothing could be further from the truth. We need robust investment in our ability as a country to do things like public health. And while we're at it, yes, we should invest in education. And yes, we should take care of our people. Even in the midst of all of this, no one should have to worry about where their food is coming from. And I know a lot of people are stepping up, a lot of private resources, a lot of charities, and a lot of municipalities and states are stepping up. Those same municipalities and states are talking about needing federal funds or they will go bankrupt. And this is the United States. Worldwide, 100 countries or more have asked for money from the IMF to help combat coronavirus. And as I mentioned on the other video, that means that the rich are going to get richer, because borrowing money is not a zero-sum game. Someone gets richer and someone gets poorer, and it is not generally the borrower who gets richer. These countries aren't borrowing to leverage it in the market. They're borrowing to provide food for their citizens, or to try to. So, we need to invest in public health, in education, in things like fair housing. New York City has a very robust housing department, and still rent is more than 40% of the income on average. The average resident in Washington Heights pays more than 40% of their income in rent. And their income ain't great. This is an opportunity. It's not an opportunity to pat ourselves on the back, and it's not just an opportunity to think about disease prevention. It's an opportunity to see the folly in dismantling public investment in public goods, whether it is public health, whether it's education, whether it is infrastructure, roads, high-speed rail, all of these things, whether it is utilities like water, just ask the fine people of Flint, Michigan, who, yes, still don't have clean drinking water coming out of their pipes. This is an opportunity, and we need to elect people who believe that we need to raise the money. We are a very rich country. We just don't tax the people who really have the money in a meaningful way. And then we need to spend it in effective ways to preserve the health and well-being of our citizens. I try not to take a particular political stance, although merely believing that public education is a good thing does tend to align me with a certain class of people. Anyway, I hope that was a clearer argument. In my mind, it comes from, we have done a good job in unnecessarily difficult circumstances, to why were these circumstances unnecessarily difficult, to a broader trend towards an overt failure of public investment in public goods, to privatization of those goods being one more way in which money is funneled to people who already own the capital to solve those problems. Look at private prisons, for God's sake. This is not a new trend, but this is a new revelation of exactly how pervasive that trend has been. We live in a society that pays its essential workers minimum wage. We don't have to. I mean, I'm an essential worker too, and I don't make minimum wage, so it's not all of us, but still. Healthcare workers aren't just doctors, and they aren't just nurses who are well paid as well. They are unit secretaries. They are x-ray technicians. They're security in the hospital. They all deserve better circumstances the next time something like this happens. Or real hazard pay and real PPE. The people who scanned my groceries at Whole Foods the other day, I mean, many coronavirus cases are asymptomatic. All these malls putting in temperature checks. That'll get some people. Anyway, I'm going long again. I think I've made my point. Come for the fun anecdotes about treating coronavirus. Stay for the incendiary political activism. Making a video on YouTube is not activism. But maybe I can find time for some real activism soon. It is, after all, an election year. Regardless, go and watch the other video. It's a much better sign-off. It's a little more heartfelt and a little less preachy. But I think watch this one too, because I'm right. That is the problem, and we need to fix it, or else the next time this happens, and there definitely will be a next time, that could easily be worse. What if this disease killed 20-year-olds indiscriminately, and what if it killed 50% of those infected, but still had asymptomatic carriers? Could easily be worse. We need to be ready for when it is. And you don't get ready by continuing to privatize things, because we don't have the collective will to raise the money and pay for it ourselves. I hope you and yours are well. I'm not going to make these videos for a little while, because I want to spend more time with my family. But I won't be quiet for long. I'm sure I'll have some project coming up. So do follow me on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Facebook is fine. Twitter, WS Fuller MD. That's like Whiskey Sierra Fuller. It's actually William Scott Fuller. Could just say that. And if you have questions, hit me up. Love to chat. In the meantime, get some good rest. Have a good night.